As if they don't have too much on their plates. The Kings of Combat Sports Podcast.
Neal.
They talk about the things they did that day. They'll analyze the work of Triple H. Rewind to SmackDown. 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 Rewind to SmackDown.
Hello, everybody watching us on YouTube and also listening on all of our free podcast feeds to Rewind a SmackDown. My name is Ting, back for another Friday along with our man, Neal Flanagan. Say hello to all the freeloaders, Neal.
Hello, all you. I don't like that term, freeloaders. That's a WH Parkism. Hello, people on the free tier and YouTubers.
I mean it with love in the same way that I feel like the term mark has now like changed and is now like, you know, an endearing term. All right. So that's all I mean.
That's fair.
I mean, no offense.
Although you really all should be members of the Post Wrestling Cafe.
If you want.
Come on.
I appreciate everybody, okay? So thank you for listening. And Neal.
Well, I dare them to sign up because there's a free trial, for goodness sake.
That is correct. Yeah. Yes. As Neal and I just went through 40 minutes, an extended edition of today's news pack, talking about a lot of top stories, including, Josh Alexander going out for surgery and being taken out of action as a result of an incident from a collision last week. MLP Mayhem getting its TV deal on TSN. We talk about Will Ospreay being advertised for Sakura Genesis. U.S. Netflix prices set to increase, and that likely means Netflix prices set to increase worldwide. A little bit about David Sahadi, a lot about Kill Tony at WrestleMania, and also a little bit about Bad News Brown being inducted into the Hall of Fame Legacy Wing. There is a story, Neal, that just kind of broke while we were on air that I do want to mention here because in our cafe schedule coming up, we have John Pollock talking about TNA Sacrifice in the post-cafe feed tomorrow, but he will not have much of a main event to talk about because the main event of TNA Sacrifice ended early due to an apparent injury to Steve Maclin. This comes to us from John Pollock at postwrestling.com, who says an apparent injury to Steve Maclin halted the main event of Sacrifice as he was unable to continue. Mike Santana and Steve Maclin headlined Friday's TNA Plus show special from New Orleans, and the match ended abruptly after Maclin appeared to be rocked by a super kick. The two were trading strikes in the opening minutes, and Santana proceeded to throw a super kick. Maclin went down as though he were temporarily knocked out. Referee Alice Lane quickly realized the issue and kept away while flashing the X signal, and Maclin was tended to. Eddie Edwards ran to the ring, briefly brawled with Santana, ending with Santana putting Edwards through a table. During the brawl, Maclin was removed from the ring and never seen again. And that seems to be rather unfortunate, especially for the main event of a show. I believe PW Insider reporting that it's thought that he might have suffered a concussion and following through with that protocol. But neither of us have seen the match nor even the incident as we were on air. But like, any thoughts on just maybe the story?
Obviously, very unfortunate, particularly in the main event of a show like this. I was going to call it a pay-per-view, but it's a TNA Plus special. He was never winning this match, I don't think, for the title. So, doubly kind of annoying, I guess, for this to end in the way it did very suddenly. Steve Maclin, of course, he drew in the Feast or Fired box, and then went through that storyline and stayed around. But if it's a suspected concussion, and of course haven't seen exactly how it played out, I will 10 times out of 10 take the proper protocol here to stop the match, rather than someone trying to gut it out and get to a finish. Yeah, throw up the X and get proper attention immediately.
I just saw the spot on X. It's pretty brutal. Like, definitely like kind of Goldberg Brett. Like, is the type of thing it reminds you of. So I think it was the only call, but you're right. Like, at one time, like Goldberg and Brett, like, this match would have like had to continue, and you would have done a lot more damage. So I'm very glad to see, even under a high pressure situation like this in the main event, that we're not in those times anymore, hopefully, and that matches like this can just like end, and there should be no complaint from anybody who, whether paid your admission to the show or signed up for TNA Plus in order to watch it. shit like this happens, and you protect the performers above all else, really. So happy to see that. Again, more on this incident, I'm sure, by tomorrow from John Pollock in the Post Wrestling Cafe feed for his review of TNA Sacrifice. And with that said, Neil, maybe just a little bit of housekeeping while we're on the topic, because we also have currently right now in our double tier book club talking about Beyond Nitro by Guy Evans on the 25th anniversary of the final edition of Nitro, hosted by Neil Flanagan and John Pollock himself. Any words you'd like to say about that show?
Yeah, if you're a double tier listener or particularly interested in that era of WCW, you can buy this as a standalone podcast as well. We had a very good discussion about this very lengthy book, which a lot of hardcore fans will have read the original Guy Evans book, Nitro, which is, I think, pretty much, it's fair to say, the definitive history of the sort of rise and fall of that era of WCW. This is more from the era, but based on original interviews with over 100 people and a collection really of case studies. It's an interesting book. It's in 3 themes, and there's a lot in there. And if you're interested in this era, you'll find a lot to interest you in this book. And I think we had a good discussion about it.
Mm-hmm. All right, so that is available for our double tier members, including post daily news updates. So, all right, a bit more on the Post Wrestling Cafe offerings a little bit later on, but first let's go to our edition of SmackDown tonight, taking place from Pittsburgh, Neil. This comes to us from the PPG Paints Arena, and tickets, according to WrestleTix, out 11,423 as of reporting. This is down slightly from when Raw was in the same building in June at 13,432 for that particular show. We start things off with Randy Orton, who comes out reminding us that Cody wanted Orton to be the best version of himself. He wanted him to be the Viper. But he shut that down a long time ago. He says he has been thinking about his 15th World Championship, and out of nowhere, Cody gave him the blessing to listen to the voices in his head. Randy tells us the voices were never the problem. It's everybody else's voices that were the problem, and that there's one person outside of his head that he is listening to, which we are to assume is referring to the person on the phone. But before he can reveal it on this particular show, Matt Cardona comes out. He comes out with a cast on one of his arms. He's holding a microphone in the other. And as he walks up to Orton, he just decides to smash it into his head. This is when we cut to the back, and more on this a bit later, of course. But we see Trick with Nick Aldis. Aldis has been so impressed with Trick. First of all, any thoughts on the opening segment before I move on?
Pretty solid opening segment. The crowd were, as ever, completely behind Randy. They were chanting his name. They were singing his song. I think they were kind of disappointed when Matt Cardona spoiled the reveal of who's on the phone.
Yeah, of course. Any further guesses this week? Who was he about to tell us?
I think it's Dwayne.
For no reason. Okay. Yeah. Maybe. I'll say maybe. Because even if it is Dwayne now, it might not necessarily be Dwayne by the time they have to actually announce it. So we go to the back again with Trick Williams and Nick Aldis. Aldis is so impressed with Trick that he wants to give him a WrestleMania match. No opponent determined, he just wants to give him a match. I guess that's how it works. Trick says he's got to call his mama. He references Lash Legend. He references Little Yachty that he also has to tell. But here comes Sami Zayn, who Trick starts to call Gingerbread. You like that nickname for Sami Zayn?
Yeah.
Not bad. Gingerbread says congrats. But what is he going to do for WrestleMania? He asked Nick Aldis. Aldis says things haven't really been going your way, Gingerbread, but I'm sorry, unless something changes, I don't have a spot for you right now. Trick says better luck next year before asking how many comp seats he's going to get for WrestleMania. At this rate, he'll get plenty. He'll get as many as he needs. Sammy starts sulking as he walks away until he gets the idea to deck Trick in the face. He leaves telling Nick that he's going to have a WrestleMania match. Just you watch. So, I mean, already really setting the stage for Trick versus Sammy before really giving you an explicit explanation why. But by the end of the show, we will have that confirmed. What is interesting, of course, in this match is that, I mean, who do you think this crowd is going to favor? I mean, Trick is the heel in this feud, but Sammy flirting with heelishness, at least for now, but I will say, like, not at the point that the crowd is turning on him, or I think even going to accept a heel turn. Like, they will cheer him if he turns on Trick and starts attacking Trick like a heel. So what do you think are the dynamics for this
I
match?
think it's really interesting because we've had weeks and weeks of Sami in this crisis of conscience, wondering whether or not he should be channeling his inner Randy Orton. What he should be doing, all the freakouts with Cody, and here he is this week. Really, okay, he does something rash to try and get Nick Aldis's attention, but it's not a heel turn by any stretch.
No, this
so
is a babyface turn. I mean, like, look at
Yeah.
Randy Orton. Violence is the answer. That is what they are teaching all the children of the world watching this. Okay, you don't get what you
Someone-
want. Beat somebody else to bloody pulp until you get it.
Someone needs to think of the children. And Nick needs to think about his management style here. Giving out matches at WrestleMania without an opponent, just willy-nilly, because no pun intended, just because Trick Williams is popular. And allowing Matt Cardona to have a match with a broken wrist, and allowing, by the way, Randy to just, do whatever he wants. He's taken a very different disciplinarian approach to Drew McIntyre than he has to Randy
Listen,
Orton.
Neil, it's a really high pressure job. All right, there's a lot of stress attached to it. Okay, let's see you be GM. All right, I'm sure
True.
you let a few members with the wrestlers
I
of
would be
cast
very
wrestle.
intimidated by these people. But I did love Sammy's face as he walked away. It was almost exactly like the Charlie Brown kind of meme. He's walking away, head bowed.
Yes.
This guy's one of the best actors in the roster.
Yeah. So Randy Orton is freaking out to Nick Aldis. He's not happy that he was interrupted by Matt Cardona of all people, and he threatens Aldis to book a match with he and Cardona, or else he'll hurt Cardona even more. And Aldis doesn't even check with medical whether or not this man in the cast should be cleared to wrestle. He says, "Oh, okay. Yes." So I mean, yeah.
And doesn't he? No, okay. We've kind of established that Matt is out for revenge, but he doesn't even ask Matt Cardona if he will accept this with a broken wrist, whether he will accept this match. He just makes the match.
So Cardona certainly does in a later segment, like actively want this match. He wants to fight Randy Orton as much as Randy wants him. But like it makes no logical sense that the GM wouldn't consult at least somebody. And just like, I think they could have reasoned it in a way that made it seem like Cardona was the one demanding this, rather than just Orton asking for it and then Aldis putting him in. Anyway, it's not a big thing in the grand scheme of things here.
No.
More on all this later. But first, our match is the Bellas taking on Charlotte and Alexa. This is a first time ever match. Neil.
Yeah, you could feel the anticipation in the crowd.
Well, for a lot of people, this is a dream match. I know I was not teeing you up for a sarcastic, response. But yes, this is a first time ever match between the Bellas taking on Charlexa. And both teams, of course, cost each other their respective tag team title matches against the Irresistible Forces, who are out ringside to watch this match. Charlotte taunts Nikki with the Bella hip swivel very early on. Brie traps Alexa in the ring skirt and attacks her before the commercial leads to a bit of a Finlay reference from Wade. We come back with the Bellas cutting Alexa off in their corner. So the Bellas, I would say, are clearly at least slanting towards working heel in this match. They're using the ring skirt. They're double teaming Alexa in the corner. Alexa delivers double DDT, hot tagging Charlotte. Later, the Bellas deliver their version of the heart attack onto Alexa. Alexa stops the Brie mode knee and hits a series of O'Connor roll counters, leading to Lash Legend delivering a forearm to Alexa in the ropes without the ref seeing. This allows Brie Bella to get the victory in a match. Well, I don't know if I'm watching in the same way other people are. I'm watching these matches in particular, like with Brie Bella, expecting everything to collapse at any point, and this didn't. So by the fact that like this was at least like passable and there were no sort of like clear big errors, like it pleasantly surprised me. And I don't know if you had a similar reaction. Yeah.
I did. I agree with you. I think 2 weeks in a row, you're sort of biting your fingernails, waiting for Brie to frankly fuck something up. And that didn't happen. No, it was not the smoothest match Some of the double team maneuvers were not wonderful. But in my mind, this was not the worst match on the show. That was going to come later on by some stretch. And yeah, it was pretty, it didn't fall apart. And I think, you know, that's got to be good for Bree's confidence going forward.
100%. Honestly, like I might sound like such an asshole with like just you know me the way I qualified it all, but like honestly, she's looking like a better Brie Bella than I've last seen her, and that includes maybe the end of her initial run as a WWE wrestler. I think it's a much higher standard for a wrestler to be able to like, you know, compete with in ring these days, and I think like thus far she's looking all right. She's at least to me showing signs of improvement, which does bode well for, you know, maybe the rest of this 2-year contract that like she and Nikki are on. So I felt the action was quite all right in this match. So of course there are no Kabuki Warriors, but again, being able to see some improvement here like has me quite a lot more confident for this run. Also enjoyed seeing them work heel. It certainly helped the match in my opinion. So I hope to see them take a more like firm heel stance later on. So the irresistible forces, of course, attacked the both of them afterwards, and out come Bayley and Lyra, who they are facing on at MSG on Monday, out for the save. And of course, all the baby faces pose in the ring, staring down the irresistible forces, really just telegraphing what the Mania match is about to be, and making it hard to really invest yourself into the outcome of Lyra versus Bayley because you know a bullshit finish is coming.
The only thing I would add to that is that it seemed notable to me that Nikki wasn't in the ring at the end, and you could sort of see someone was looking at her at the far side of the ring, the sort of opposite from the hard cam. But you know, the two of them would appear in a back stage segment later, and she seemed fine.
So in the back, we got Damian Priest with R-Truth. Truth is wearing a construction worker's vest and talking to a foreman about rebuilding the Judgment Day clubhouse, because you see the gimmick is that he still thinks he and Priest are in the Judgment Day. So Priest has to remind him they're not in the group anymore. So here comes Jelly Roll, who R-Truth mistakes as Dom Mysterio. And he's extra confused because in walks Rhea Ripley, the actual Rhea Ripley, who Truth says, "I knew it, Dom and Mommy are back together." So that was hilarious, and Jelly is here to give Rhea advice. Jelly Roll comes in, or he was there, and he tells Rhea, "Jade is mean, big, violent, and strong, but you're Rhea Ripley, and we believe in you." So,
yes, Jelly Roll's role as a life coach continues this week.
Yeah, he didn't. He trimmed down the pep talk in comparison to the Randy Orton one, which seemed to go for like 3 minutes. This was just a few words here, but yeah, that like he is a great like motivational speaker. You know, he's got a great voice for it. I don't know if like Rhea Ripley necessarily needed this, but like I mean, nice of Jelly Roll to offer. So then Rhea congratulates Priest on being tag champs with Truth. Priest says he did not expect to be tag champs with Truth, but he does expect Rhea to beat Jade at Mania. So, I was not a fan of this segment so much. I think like they're beating down this R-Truth, mistaking people for Judgment Day members thing pretty hard, and I don't think there's much life in it. And the substance of the rest of the segment, even between Jelly, Priest, and Rhea, just didn't really have much other than, you know, I know Rhea, you're going to beat Jade. Like, not much drama, not much tension, not much laughs. Either.
No, definitely not. I mean, I am not completely averse to R-Truth as the kind of perpetually confused guy, you know, but when we have weeks upon weeks of balls jokes and then weeks upon weeks of just thinking that one person is another person, it's, you know, he's been funnier, put it that way.
In the back, Charlotte, Alexa, and the Bellas are all together. They're arguing with each other about, like, you know, the match. Bellas say that you can't blame us for that because we didn't invite Nia and Lash out to the ring. And then they also say, we'll do everything we can to be champions. Alexa takes Bree's flannel in retaliation for taking her spoon last week. So there's that. This segment felt very much like straight out of 2010 Raw. Very poor writing, very poorly acted. And that's something I'll say as a big Bellas fan. Man, their acting is really bad. And it's not like wrestling acting is great these days. It's still bad, but they have a delivery that is just like, I think
I feel like it's never changed over the years. There's a particular tone of voice that they adopt that's it doesn't have much emotion behind it, and yeah, I'm with you on that one. And I know you are a fan and you follow them. You listen to their podcasts.
you listen to them on the podcast. You listen to them like really in like on Total Bellas on really sort of any other media. They have the capacity to speak like very authentic, very interesting people. But that completely is gone once you script them for one of these backstage segments. So anyway, they should be heel anyway. You know, Rhea calls Jade, Michin, B-Fab out after their attack last week. A lot of boos for this new heel group here. Jade says Michin and B-Fab put themselves in a position of power. She does flub a line about dragging them down and then repeats it. B-Fab and Michin speak. They noticeably get a lot of boos, like on, you know, like a sort of minor like Dominic Mysterio type of level. Michin says she's been grinding for decades and put in as much work as Rhea has, but they've been forgotten and you get all the attention. B-Fab says, at least with Jade, what you see is what you get. So Jade says B-Fab has volunteered to step up in a match against Rhea Ripley tonight, and Rhea calls for a ref, so we get the match, Rhea versus B-Fab. Jade and Michin distract on the outside, and there's really not much of a match here because it's quickly called when Jade runs Rhea's head into the steel steps. So, I mean, the match was really never the point. This was not something that was announced beforehand. Just seemed like a bit of an ambush attack. Or maybe they didn't want B-Fab to lose so soon after, you know, turning heel, perhaps. So the beatdown ensues with Michin attempting a Pele kick. B-Fab delivers a big boot and then Jaded for just, you know, the heat. So your thoughts on the new debut of this heel group?
It keeps up the momentum of this, you know, the new baddies, if you like. And the crowd were up for this. You know, they were, like you said, they were getting some good heat. I think there was an issue with practically everyone talking over each other at points during the promos, and a couple of flubbed lines. I think from that point of view, it was a wee bit of a shame because the crowd were giving them, you know, full-throated boos, and it wasn't capitalized upon particularly well, I thought.
I'm curious to see if Io will cross lines at some point to help Rhea. I mean, anytime you see a 3-on-1 attack and it's Rhea Ripley on one end, you would expect her bestie to, you know, show up to bail her out. So maybe we can anticipate that because we still are awaiting a spot for Io. And I wonder if it could be a U.S. title challenge, you know, with special permission from Aldis and Pierce, of course. So we'll see about that. I think in the promo, B-Fab, to me, clearly stood out as somebody a lot more natural on the mic than either Jade or Michin. And I'm curious to see if she takes a bigger role in all of this somehow. Like the fact that she stands just as tall as Jade. Yeah. Maybe not ideal for somebody that you want as like, you know, supporting cast for somebody like a Jade Cargill. But, you know, there's potential for obviously a feud or some sort of story between the two of them, or maybe tag team or something in the future. I do think, like, at least for this first week, just having two people next to a heel Jade Cargill is an improvement over the presentation. Kit Wilson is in the back with The Miz, and The Miz looks increasingly disheveled as a result of Danhausen's curse, which he still refuses to believe in. He lets us know he stepped on gum on his red bottom shoes. Miz also says his packages got rerouted from Romania and his phone fell in the toilet. And he turns down joining Wilson in his match ringside tonight with Jelly Roll and will instead watch the match from the back without any sharp objects. Danhausen at this point comes in, asks why The Miz is willing to mentor Kit Wilson, but not him. Wilson is about to call him toxic, but Danhausen interrupts and curses him.
Yeah. Danhausen talks about his machismo, great hair, and his great suits.
Where's your sort of like feeling on Danhausen several weeks in now?
I kind of prefer his social media stuff to what's been on television.
Which is what? What's he doing on social media?
He's walking around backstage looking for his face on the trucks. And he's just a bit funnier when he's doing his own shit rather than the scripted stuff. The "you are cursed" is like that's getting over a catchphrase with the crowd, and they're playing along. And so that's fodder for WWE. They do this. That's to be expected. I don't know. I just feel like there needs to be a little more variety in it. This is a guy who can be genuinely very funny. He also on the 316 day was in a again, it's on his own social media. He's wearing a sort of skull cap and saying that he's Stone Steve and just going up to people and going, what? And it's not funny when I say it, but it's funny when he produces it himself.
In particular, when he's doing it with people who aren't necessarily in on it, or at least like aren't suspecting it, you know, like this is a scene that's written for both parties. When he's just approaching the gimmick with somebody who doesn't think they're on camera or doesn't know they're about to be on camera, it's a bit more interesting, right? But you'll never get that sort of thing on the actual show itself. I think they've been a little too liberal with his appearances. It's, to me, like robbing the freshness away a little. They've also been too liberal with the cursing. I don't think it should just be a catchphrase. I think it should actually like have weight to it so that it's a bigger deal when he actually releases the curse on somebody and it leads to something catastrophic like Dom losing the IC title, right? I don't just want it like, I just don't want something like this to be done for a ladder to fall on the Miz or something like that. Or Kit Wilson, I guess in this case, losing their Jelly Roll. It just feels like they should save it, you know, for something bigger.
I agree with that too. I think that the curse thing, we should not be in the spot where we're losing track of how many people he's cursed. It should be a thing that becomes ongoing.
iShow Speed was also cursed, and I maybe that played out on his stream or something.
I think so.
Drew McIntyre's in the back. Kathy asked for an update after his fall off the side of the building. Drew says his head is still pounding. He's in no condition to fight, but Jacob took everything away from him, so he's got nothing to lose now, and he's dangerous. Jelly Roll versus Kit Wilson. That is the actual match we're about to talk about here. Kit Wilson wants to defend the honor of his mother with a poem. Do you have the transcription, Neil? Do you care?
Of course. It's a much smaller or shorter poem. You tell lies, Mr. Jelly, about your willy and about your belly. You falsely claim you met my mother, but she'd never choose you as her lover. To see you naked, that's far from erotic. My mom says hi, you are toxic. And then he gets cut off by Jelly Roll, who wants to start the match.
It's fun. It's not that funny, of course. Not that I don't even know if it's meant to be, but it's better when you do it, Neil. So thank you very much for that. So Wilson attacks him with the book from behind. Jelly drops the leg onto Wilson's groin, delivers a Manhattan drop, then goes for the shake, rattle, and roll, but is cut off. Crowd starts chanting for Jelly Roll. Wilson teases using the book again, leading to another attack from behind as he takes control. The belly-to-belly suplex is delivered by Jelly Roll, which leads to Wade calling it the jelly-to-belly. Mm-hmm. Wilson goes
to belly souffle.
Very nice. Wilson goes for a high cross. Jelly counters with the power slam. In the corner, Jelly grabs the poetry book to hit Wilson, but Wilson instead counters with the turn E kit, getting a 2 count. Jelly then delivers the choke slam, and he gets the victory. So I'm reminded by the end of this match, this is actually Jelly Roll's first singles match. So again, on my Brie Bella scale, like I actually felt like this over-delivered on what should be very low expectations for, you know, a live TV match in the man's second match ever, his first singles match ever, considering he used to also weigh like 500 pounds to be able to get by, what was the length of this, like a 5-minute, 6-minute match?
Yeah.
You know, like, I would say that's a pretty big success.
I was not expecting this at all. I expected this all to turn into an angle and not with some physicality, but not a bell-to-bell match with a winner at the end. I mean, the match was objectively pretty bad, but like you said,
compared to what though?
This is a guy who's not a professional wrestler, so you know he's done some training. This
is not the worst match on the show. I feel
it's
like
still you're right. It's still not the worst match on
that, right?
Absolutely agree with that. This is still not the worst match on the show. Yeah, I mean, and Kit did well. He bumping around for this guy, flying him, you know, flinging himself around. I was quite impressed. And Jelly grabs his son at the end and leaves. But yeah, I mean, he made a decent account of himself here, and I was pretty impressed. But yeah, and equally surprised by what we got. I thought this is the sort of thing that would take up maybe 5 minutes of WrestleMania sometimes, you know, a celebrity activation of this level, you know, because Jelly Roll is, in some circles, a big star.
Yeah, totally agreed. When they started building this, like we thought, okay, like are they building to either a singles match between these two or some sort of tag match involving the Miz and maybe a Danhausen or something? But like they kind of feel like they blew their load here, and like this was a much more substantial match, completely blew off the program that I was expecting. So I mean, by the end of tonight, I guess maybe you do question what Jelly Roll's role is going to be at WrestleMania, if any. And I don't know if it would be next to Kit Wilson at this point. So likely a lot of rehearsal for this match, of course. But of course, that's to be expected for somebody, you know, having their first singles match on live television. So Kit Wilson did well. Hope he's on Mania. So we'll see. The MFTs are in the back. Solo Sikoa says he's hard on everybody out of love. He can't lead this family if everybody is not on the same page, as he specifically looks at Talla Tonga. Solo apologizes for how he behaved last week, but says, you know who wouldn't apologize? Roman Reigns, as he looks at Talla Tonga once again. So Hayes at this point, Carmelo Hayes comes out teasing Talla Tonga about whether or not he'll finally answer the U.S. Open Challenge or if he's going to wait for Solo Sikoa to give him permission. Nakamura comes in and basically says the same thing. This is when Talla Tonga comes in, and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like this was Talla Tonga's first words, right? That we've never heard him say.
Yeah, I've not heard him speak, I'm pretty sure. All he said here was, "You good?"
You good. Yeah. So he's learned to speak. Yeah. Talla Tonga says, "You good?" And he shares a stare down with Shinsuke Nakamura. So maybe it was still finally a little bit of movement, you know, in breaking Talla Tonga out from just this like big man, generic big man role.
It's hard to get invested in this though.
Yeah.
The MFTs are just a busted flush at the minute. I mean, that Roman line felt like it was engineered for an ooh moment from the crowd, and it was absolutely not that.
Yeah, I do continue to wonder if they are teasing further involvement involving Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa, just given, you know, everything with the Usos taking place on Raw, but maybe that doesn't seem to make so much sense in all of this, you know.
Not to me, anyway.
Not yet, right now. So, a lot of increased focus on Talla Tonga as well. Like maybe even certainly teasing tension between he and Solo. Could you see a turn or some sort of like, what do you see happening with Solo and Tama?
Yeah, I don't think that's being done just for fun. These Shinsuke and Tama interactions have been happening pretty much weekly for what feels like months at this stage. It may not be quite that long. It just feels that long. There's only 3 weeks to WrestleMania, and I don't know if that's a program that's really worthy of Mania, but it's certainly worthy of a television program for SmackDown. So yeah, I think they're absolutely going down that route.
Well, we certainly forget, but like the SmackDown before WrestleMania needs its matches too, right?
It does.
And you can't just like throw a bunch of random matches on it. So they do have to build to that. So we shall see what that is. The U.S. Open Challenge is answered by Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn opens. Of course, Sami Zayn was the person who started this iteration of the U.S. Open Challenge with his reign. But then out comes Trick Williams, who is there to watch ringside. The crowd goes nuts for Trick's entrance. Trick now, I don't know how long he's been doing this, but it was the first I noticed it, where he has this like rotating platform that spins him 360, and it looks amazing.
It does.
So I'm sure Paul Levesque will show us the behind-the-scenes video very shortly on social media of how he engineered all that, but it looked really cool. Zayn is distracted by Trick on the floor. He dives off the top into a great-looking dropkick from Melo. First 48 is countered into a Liger Bomb for a 2 count from Zayn. And then we go through 2 commercial breaks here as the Haluva kick is interrupted by the first 48 for a 2 count. Nothing but net is turned into the Blue Thunder Bomb for a 2 count. Trick at this point gets really nervous and he gets frustrated. So he grabs the U.S. title and throws it to Sami, which prompts the ref to take the title to put it away. So the ref is gone. This allows Trick to get onto the apron. He tries to hit Sami, but instead Sami ducks and Trick instead connects with Melo. So the thing is, we should mention here, I don't know if you took it this way, Neil, but like the duck and punch were so slow and so mistimed that entirely made Trick look like he was intentionally missing so that he could hit Carmelo instead. So by the end of this, I don't at all sense that was what he was going for, but no. As a result, it looked awful. It looked like he was intentionally missing Sami to hit Carmelo. But this is where it gets kind of interesting because Sami now finds himself in a familiar situation to what happened to him in the Elimination Chamber qualifier when Drew McIntyre interfered and tried to basically hand him the victory over Cody Rhodes. So he now takes advantage of the outside interference this time, and he hits the haluva kick, and he pins Carmelo Hayes to become the U.S. champion one more time. Your thoughts on the outcome and also the match itself?
The match was great, and I love Sami, and I've never sort of shied away from that. And it's some of the little things, you know, about his character too. You know, when the crowd were chanting "Whoop that Trick," while Trick was at ringside, and Sami's climbing up to do one of his moves, like he sort of looks pissed off at the crowd for doing this. It's even little things like that. I think that Sami's he picks up on what's going on around him really, really well. So a great match. The finish, like you said, was clumsy for sure. The timing was off, but I can overlook that. What I don't think I am able to completely overlook is the fact that they've gone straight to a match graphic and everything for Sami Zayn versus Trick Williams at WrestleMania for the US title, with Carmelo Hayes just forgotten about. Now, the interesting thing to me is, you know, the Trick and Melo definitely have history. So shouldn't next week Melo be absolutely on the war path about this? He's lost this title that arguably he wouldn't have lost but for the interference of this guy. So that's interesting to me. It's just,
I believe they will, for sure.
Is there a possibility of this becoming a three-way? Is what I'm thinking.
That's very possible. Like, for sure, Carmelo Hayes will respond to this, will react to this. I don't think there's any way you could do a finish like this without having, you know, Hayes not responding to it. But the question is, how many weeks are we away from Mania?
3 tomorrow.
3 weeks.
Saturday.
Like, they could fit that match in there, but it would kind of suck for Carmelo Hayes to, like, just be supporting sort of like a win for Trick, you know, en route to WrestleMania. But I definitely think they are going to play that up, and they're going to do something deeper between Hayes and Trick. I don't necessarily see a three-way just because I think, like, the feud has been so much between Zayn and Trick. It's felt so personal between them, at least more personal than, like, Trick and Melo. Of course, with 3 weeks to go, they could, like, open it up to make it a more involved, sort of, like, deeper storyline involving Carmelo. They could. But I don't think it needs it. Like, I think the matchup is perfectly fine right now as Trick and Sami.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that?
I mean, the matchup is fine, but just I feel like the run up to all of this with the weekly meltdowns by Sami, whoever he's talking to, particularly Cody, and all those poor water bottles and stuff, this doesn't really feel like a suitable end result to all of that. That really we've got a babyface Sami. Yes, he took advantage of a heel's interference to win.
Mm-hmm.
And he may have a slightly more ruthless streak in him. That to me just doesn't feel like a worthy end result to the weeks of build we've had for all of this. And I just wondered, is there a possibility that in the next few weeks, with Melo's involvement too, we could develop that a little more and get back on track with that? I don't know.
I'll tell you what might be interesting is that, I mean, Sami, you know, he started this open challenge, so he has sort of vouched for, like, this idea of being the U.S. champion being a defending champion every single week on TV. So what if Melo comes in next week and says, "Hey, you're a defending champion, right? Give me a rematch on TV." Sami, now that, you know, he's desperate, should start refusing to give out title challenges, and in fact, like, should start playing coward a little bit, right? And so for the next few weeks, you get this sort of, like, further, you know, like, change in Sami to no longer want to be this heroic, you know, defender, and instead wanting to hold on to this championship desperately at all costs, including maybe politicking his way out of matches. That could be somewhat interesting.
I love that idea, Wai, because it goes to something we mentioned last week, which is the possibility of sort of some kind of double turn situation with these two, because the crowd loves Trick.
Mm-hmm.
And they're willing, I think, to boo Sami if it comes to it, because I think he's kind of a born baby face, and he's very good in that role, but he's also a good heel. He's proven that in the past. So, and that's been the direction he's been headed in slowly over all these weeks. So I would like some payoff to that.
Yeah. And of course, Aleister Black will be there. laughing all about it. But I really like the way they position this finish to call back to that Elimination Chamber qualifier for Sammy. And, you know, you add all the conversations with Cody, Orton, and Black. You know, it resulted in, I think, like a nice way to tie up this particular point of his character arc very well with that finish. So Zayn has the title. He's gloating about it to Aldis and asks if he's earned a WrestleMania match. And Aldis says, congrats, you've got your shot. You were defending it against Trick Williams. So there you go. So yeah, we'll see what the direction is for Trick and Melo coming off of this. Sammy and Trick is official now. Aleister Black is going to give the biggest I told you so ever to Sami Zayn. And yeah, a lot of things happening as a result of maybe one of the biggest news items coming out of this show. Jacob Fatu is in the back with Kathy Kelly. He did not come here to stay backstage, so he's going to the audience to talk to the people. And Jacob arrives wearing a Fatu F around and try us t-shirt. So it's usually a sign that a saying has kind of lost its cool points with the youth once WWE tries to monetize it on a shirt. And I don't even see this. Well, this must be something that they're putting up on Shop. But, at this point, Wiet has long past jumped the shark. And following FAF5 on a t-shirt now, and also Fatu, fuck around and try us, now being marketed. I think it's time to lay the burial ground for FAFO.
Someone in the back or in marketing has recently discovered FAFO, probably a few years too late, and seems to be obsessed with it. Yeah, and this is kind of a blend of those because of the font and the style of t-shirts where it's name and name and name and name as well. I think it looks terrible, like nearly all wrestling t-shirts do. Yeah,
sounds like something
around and try us. I mean, who's us in this situation as well?
Well, the Fatus, of course, Rikishi.
I
mean the Usos, even though they don't possess the last name.
That's true, yes.
Zilla, all the Fatus.
That's fair.
Anyway, so you can buy that right now for $35 Canadian on WWE Shop. Yeah, and Fatu says he's busted open, cracked ribs due to Drew McIntyre, and he ramps up. He gets a lot of what chants, in this.
He does, yeah, but annoyingly, because he's such a good talker but his cadence lends itself to these gaps, and the crowd just sort of like Pavlov's dog have to react with a what.
Yeah. Now they do clearly either it's through years of maybe wrestlers expecting this now, but wrestlers have done a great job of being able to just continue on without being tripped up by these chants so much, and he does just that. And as he ramps up his intensity, the crowd starts chanting Fatu instead of this. They really should have been chanting fuck around and try us, F around and try us, F around and try us. That's next week.
Catchy.
He says Drew tried to end him, but he's still standing here. And that means every week he is going to dog walk his punk ass. A term you love to, use to threaten people.
I do threaten Way with that before we go on air.
So Drew arrives. He's also selling as he talks, just like Jacob has. Says Jacob is not the victim. He's a criminal. And since he's come out of jail, he has stolen. He's stolen his title. He's stolen his WrestleMania. And Drew says, you talk about taking your food off your kids' table. Screw your damn kids. So then this is when Nick Aldis comes out and he makes the match official for WrestleMania. But instead he makes it an unsanctioned match. So Drew can't be that upset. He got his WrestleMania match here.
So he looked kind of happy by the end of all of this.
Your thoughts on the segment and the build to this announcement of this match?
I liked it. I think this was effective. These are two very intense talkers. Drew came out, he's almost purple in the face. And like I hoped all along, he's really, really angry about having the title taken from him, about WrestleMania having been taken from him. So that's a good segue into this blood feud between the two of them that had them, falling off a building last week and fighting for 3 hours. So, yeah, this feels like this unsanctioned match stipulation feels worthy.
Yeah, for like a sort of like mid card type of match, I think they've done well with this one. You know, again, this one could have really felt like a bronze medal game between two people who were at one point in contention, well, held the championship and are no longer. But I think they've done a good job of like really like giving a lot of intensity to the feud. I will say I think there's still a level to reach between these two on a more personal level. I don't think we've hit prime Drew McIntyre yet in this program. I think, you know, Drew has plenty of reason to hate Jacob, as he lined out here, for taking away his title. Well, he can't hate him that much now. He got his WrestleMania match, so that kind of took that a bit away. But there is still, I think, a more personal level for the two of them to reach in their trash talk with each other. And what I mean by all that is, I would love to see Drew make fun of his kids a bit more. So
Yeah, and I think we will get that. And he'll lean into the criminal past thing more as well.
yeah, would be nice. So Jelly is with Matt Cardona in the back. Jelly Roll says, Cody is on the way.
Yes.
And Cardona makes sure that Jelly tells Cody to stay out of his fight tonight because he wants to kick Randy's ass. So in comes Zelina.
Jelly Roll says he's praying for him, by the way, just before.
Yes.
I know why that.
Why did you find that funny? What was funny about that?
It just did. I'm sorry, to all the prayerful people out there, but yeah.
I get the sense like if he wasn't famous, Jelly Roll would just be like a really annoying guy backstage, like going up and like taking up everybody's time, giving like what advice to people when he's certainly not qualified for it. All right, taking up too much time with his pep talks, and like I'd just be like, what are you doing here? Like get out. I'm good.
Yeah.
Stop talking to me.
It feels a bit patronizing. It's like you go slugger,
Yeah, okay. Anyway, so Zelina and Aleister Black are here, and Zelina says, imagine taking a fight just to fix your damaged ego. Black says, imagine if Black just left Randy alone. No voices. Maybe there would have been a chance. And then he says, but now... Ugh. Like, I could not make this out. And
I rewound it. No idea. Absolutely no idea. And Matt Cardona goes, what? Or, so he didn't understand it either.
It must have been Dutch.
Possibly.
Yeah. So all the Dutch speakers, you let us know, like what, or like I should have held up Google Translate or something to this, but like it was intentionally vague and therefore completely ineffective. Am I going to wait a week to find out what he said here? Will I care? Will I care by the end of the sentence?
Do you care at the minute? Have you any curiosity?
I don't know.
Me either.
Nor do I care about what they're building to here, which is, I guess, like a tease of a Matt Cardona heel turn. Like, fine, do it, but like you don't have to do it through Aleister Black. Like, I'm not gonna sit through like and care enough about like whether or not Matt Cardona is going to listen to the voices in his head.
No,
or
something about action figures. Yeah, melted action figures being presented to him perhaps next week.
So Aleister Black now is like, I guess playing devil on Matt Cardona's shoulder, and like to this, I would say, do you not have better targets? Like Aleister Black and Zelina. Like you just successfully turned Sami Zayn. You successfully turned Randy Orton. That's great. Shouldn't you move on?
To what and to what end for themselves? Just so that they can do it.
This satisfaction, personal satisfaction to know that they have this influence. But shouldn't you be aiming for like a somebody higher on the card? Like shouldn't you be aiming for Cody or like Punk or I don't even Rhea or something? Like you're going to Matt Cardona of all people? That adds nothing to your resume. Anyway, so they're teasing this. Maybe giving him a Dutch lesson or something. So Chelsea is in the back with Tiffany Stratton, and Chelsea offers to help Tiffany Stratton in her match against Giulia tonight. Stratton calls her a 2-time U.S. title loser and says no thanks. So bad night for the Cardonas tonight.
And then Danhausen out of shot cursed Tiffany Stratton.
Oh, he did? I didn't even know.
He must have.
Oh, you're suggesting this.
I'm suggesting, yeah.
Understood. Tiffany Stratton. More to come. Tiffany Stratton takes on Giulia here. Now, this was initially promoted as a U.S. title match. I don't think I'm crazy in thinking this was supposed to be. They quietly just changed that with no explanation. Early on in this match, Stratton does a lot of flippy offense and delivers a front dropkick that was really short of target. But Giulia sells it anyway, so it looked extra awful. Giulia goes for a handspring bulldog thing. Sorry. Stratton Wait, who went for this move? Stratton goes for this handspring bulldog thing.
Yeah, on Giulia. This is up to the break, wasn't it? This thing.
And then they fall into I mean, I don't know if it was the intended move, but like the result looked awkward as hell because there were some really weird physics to Giulia's sell. I'm talking like he sold this like it was like a stunner.
Stunner. She bounced, yeah.
For a bulldog. So really strange. I mean, maybe like she must have been going for a stunner instead. Anyway, the chemistry is just not good in this early portion here. Giulia ends up hitting the Arrivederci knee for a 2 count. Giulia then tries for a superplex, but is thrown off, allowing Stratton to deliver a swanton. And when I say swanton, I'm talking Jeff Hardy, full on, like full body weight swanton, landing right onto Giulia with a sick thud. No roll off at all. Ref had to check on her, clearly. Stratton goes for the PME, but yeah, did you have something to add?
And Giulia just, through no fault of her own, involuntarily has to lift her legs. So, I mean, this could have been argued as, she got her knees up to, it just looked awful.
Stratton goes for the PME, but at this point, Kiana James distracts on the floor, causing a delay, allowing Giulia to get the knees up to block the PME to get the victory. Honestly, considering the talent here, this was not good, Neil. And I don't like to hyperfixate on like small botches here and there in a match, but my expectations for like a former champion and somebody on the level of Giulia, there were way too many blemishes to pick out from here. And this crowd was also not all that into this match. They weren't great all show, but in this match in particular, I felt they were noticeably quieter. And you had a really uninspired, generic distraction finish to boot too. So this was my reference for worst match of the show.
Easily a worst match on SmackDown in several weeks, if not months. It was really, really bad, I thought. And I don't like to paint either of them as bad wrestlers because we know that that's not the case. They're good. The chemistry here was bad. Danhausen must have cursed them because it just all went wrong. Everything that could go wrong seemed to here. Even the rolling senton near the end took 2 attempts to. It just all went badly wrong. And Wai's showing, for those who are listening, the result of the swanton, which looks absolutely brutal. For Giulia's legs having to be raised there, which again, just from a pro wrestling point of view, doesn't look good. Yeah, they'll want to fix this, I would say. Both competitors will know that it wasn't a good night for them.
100%. Like this is not indicative of like their potential. Of course, we've seen much better output from both of them, but this was just like noticeably bad for I think the expectations you would have for these two. Now like the non-title stipulation here, I thought would allow for Tiffany Stratton win to lead to a title challenge later on, possibly at WrestleMania, maybe not, but you had Giulia win. Now, it was off of Kiana James' distraction, so Stratton has reason to argue for another one. But what do you see being the direction coming out of all this?
I'm left not knowing. There's no clear direction here except for a rematch between them. To me, there's no one else really involved. Tiffany doesn't have an ally who could be the sort of equal for Kiana James. So yeah, I just think they run it back, I guess. And for their sake, at least on television, if not Mania, I hope they do get another chance to redeem themselves because they'll want to, I'm sure.
What justification do they have for running it back though? Like, would this somehow lead to a title match? Because otherwise you would need another non-title match before you get your title match, which by that point is like 3 matches of this before WrestleMania.
Yeah, you make a very, very fine point, and I'm not sure is the answer. And is the other point in all of this is Chelsea's continued involvement backstage?
True, you're right.
Where we we don't really know if the injury is real, and it doesn't really feel like it is because she's been involved in some significant physicality that you wouldn't imagine she'd be allowed to do.
Chelsea would be the equalizer. Of course, this plays into the scene earlier where Chelsea offered to help, Stratton turned it down. Now she will likely ask for it. So, okay. So I guess maybe that could be it. Color Me, not that interested or not that inspired so far, but we shall see where else it goes. Because I certainly expect Stratton to be on the card. I could even expect Chelsea Green to be on WrestleMania. Yeah. And Giulia by extension. So we'll see. Lyra and Bailey have an interview in the back. They promote their Madison Square Garden match against the Irresistible Forces. And then Orton is on the phone. He says, I appreciate you. See you soon.
Yeah, see you soon, Cowboy Bob.
I'm waiting for him I'm waiting for him to throw something really unexpected in there. Like, I appreciate you. See you soon. I love you.
Yes.
I miss you.
I was gonna say.
I've been thinking about you. Like something to really throw us off, Maybe he's not talking to anybody.
I'll never forget Paris. Something like that.
Yeah. Maybe he's actually not talking to anybody. Like maybe a phone is just the way he can access the voices in his head,
Lots of references to the voices tonight. So yeah, it could be, when he grasps his head, they can be literally in there, but occasionally they'll, give him a buzz on the phone as well.
Or Neil, okay, maybe something a bit more contemporary. Maybe he's talking to AI. Maybe he's just talking to Claude about what he should do with his career,
Could be. I saw Bernie Sanders having a chat with Claude.
Watch that too.
Yeah.
And these AIs are like, they're designed to be very agreeable. Like if you push back, they will just be like, you know what, you're right. So I have no doubt that somebody like Randy Orton asking, hey, should I turn heel on Cody? Should I beat up Matt Cardona tonight? Claude's just going to be like, yeah, you make some great points, Randy. You're absolutely right. You should do that. So maybe that's what the voices in his head are these days. It's like, it's Claude, it's Gemini, GPT.
Grok.
I
don't know if it can speak.
Grok would definitely lead to a heel turn. Interesting spin on this character. Anyway, it sounds just as interesting as Rock or Grok. All right. So WrestleMania matches confirmed so far: Oba versus Brock, Drew McIntyre versus Jacob Fatu in an unsanctioned match, Sammy versus Trick, AJ versus Becky, Liv versus Stephanie, Jade versus Rhea, Punk versus Roman, and Cody versus Orton. All right. How do you think the card looks so far? Do you think this is would you be buying a ticket?
Solid enough. I would not be buying a ticket to go in person. Absolutely not. But that's even if the card was twice as good, I wouldn't be doing that anyway. You
also you're essentially really just buying for, you have no idea what's on either night. So you kind of have to buy both nights if you want to see everything.
Yeah, I think that's by design.
Yeah. Of course, primarily it's Punk and Roman and Cody and Orton. You would assume Punk and Roman closes, although we aren't sure. We really don't know. So Matt Cardona versus Randy Orton is our main event tonight. And Cardona starts by using the cast as a weapon here. But Orton quickly starts taking control, and he pins Cardona's arm under the hood of the announce table, and he starts stomping on it. Cardona delivers the Rough Rider for a 2 count. Orton tears away at Cardona's shirt and continues to work over his arm and shoulder. And at this point, I realized the cast isn't really a cast as much as it is this sort of protective wrist guard. So Orton pulls it off. He starts pulling at the arm, slamming it against the ring post, and then he just continues by delivering an RKO out of nowhere. Now, at this point, he also pauses before, pinning him, leading to the crowd to chant one more time, which Orton does not oblige and simply goes for the pinfall. Match was maybe not so much of a back and forth as it is to establish Orton as more of a heel, the style of the Orton of old. What did you think about the match?
Yeah, this is really just there to kind of show Randy as completely relentless, completely ruthless, just to the nth degree going after the supposed broken wrist and stomping it, throwing it into the steps, into the corner posts. If anything, it got a bit tiresome for me. But message delivered, I guess.
I thought he did a good job with the arm. Like, and if the idea was to like remind us that this was Randy Orton 2009, or at least like, you know, heel version of Randy Orton, I thought that was effective. Like, this was a different style of Randy Orton match than we've seen in quite some time. So, you know, and you like, I feel this way even in watching old Randy Orton matches these days. It's like, there's a lot to respect about his work as a heel in particular. It's his posture, the pauses, and the way he looks. Like, and a perfect example would be that, like, delivering the RKO out of nowhere and then just pausing as the crowd builds the anticipation for whatever. Now, this was interesting in that, like, does the RKO, which at this point over the years has become this incredibly fan-friendly move. So he does it and pauses, letting the crowd chant one more time before he chooses to shit on that and doesn't do it one more time, leading to a more heelish, flatter but heelish reaction for this finish. So I wonder if all of that was intentional, and if so, it to me calls to like a different level of psychology he might employ to frame this move now more as a heelish move than a babyface move. So I thought that was kind of interesting. In the finish here, Cody Rhodes comes out. He listened to Jelly Roll and did not interfere in this match. And Aldis tries to stop him, think about WrestleMania. Cody tells Aldis, I just want to talk to him. I just want to talk to him. So they have a bit of a stare down as they immediately start brawling and they start attacking each other through the timekeeper's area. Cody swats away at a chair Orton tries to use. He gouges Orton in the eyes to on top of the announce table. And then the sea of security comes in trying to stop them. They do a very poor job, as they usually do. And, you know, they just continue beating each other up. Jelly Roll shows up now trying to keep the peace. That's your friend forever, Cody. I'm praying for you. I prayed for you.
Yeah, I know.
Orton then delivers the RKO to Jelly Roll as we are taken to the back and we go off air. So that is our closing angle. Jelly Roll. I wonder if he returns following this, but yeah, we got our big RKO to Jelly Roll. What did you think about this closing angle tonight?
I felt it went on a little too long. There was a lot of rinse and repeat of the separations, and then one of the other jumping over the officials and getting to the other guy. I don't know. It's a very patterned thing to do. This, you know, Cody arrives in his bus right at the very end of the show and just wants to beat Randy up. I was more interested in the crowd's reaction here. It was kind of, would they turn on Cody? They're so clearly pro Randy. The Cardona thing was much more about Randy than Matt Cardona, who really, if you analyze it, got far too much really in the match, even from surviving all of that attack on his wrist. At some point he should have tapped, submitted, you know, if there was really any sense to it. So the crowd were very pro Randy. So my question was, will they turn on Cody? The answer was no. They were pretty loud throughout, but there wasn't really. They were chanting for Randy, even after he RKO'd Jelly Roll, who was left spasming in the ring. So if the Jelly Roll attack was supposed to like cement a proper heel turn, then it's mission not accomplished, you know. And I really sort of feel it's not that, because the one thing that is guaranteed, or not guaranteed, but is much more likely to get the crowd against you is going after the crowd. And Randy's good at that. He's done it well in the past. And in his promos, he hasn't been doing that at all. So I feel like they're kind of happy enough with this, you know, real sort of, he's a badass, he's a bad guy, he listens to the voices in his head, he does bad things, but they're happy for the crowd to eat that up.
Agreed. I think the question they want to, well, the effect they want out of all of this is whether or not you're interested in the match. You know, they don't care who you cheer for as long as you are buying a ticket. You could buy a ticket to boo Cody Rhodes, cheer for Randy Orton. They don't care as long as you are engaged. And I agree with you. I don't think they're actively trying to steer us away from wanting to boo Randy Orton. And I'm sure they understand by now, any RKO they do to anybody, including Jelly Roll, is only going to make him more popular. So I also wonder, like, to me, like, I don't think the effect of RKOing Jelly Roll is so much in the idea that he just RKO'd the civilian. It's more so that he RKO'd a friend, somebody they established as a friend, because, you know, like seeing Jelly Roll compete in a match against Kit Wilson, beating Kit Wilson. Did he beat Kit Wilson? He beat Kit, yeah. Like, you know, like at this point, I look at him as an active competitor who can withstand something like an RKO. So I wonder if, like, if they had it their way, whether or not they would have put the Jelly Roll match on the same show as the big RKO spot at the end here. But again, that's a small thing. Your thoughts overall on tonight's show? By the way, I will want to say, like, this, they are totally overusing this sort of like sea of security thing. You know?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm in agreement with you that tonight it felt like it went a bit long, and by this point it felt so by the numbers. Of course, security are going to come out. Of course, they're going to be completely ineffective. And I just think, like, it's become a bit of a Levesque trope, you know, to just like throw a bunch of indie guys out there to cause a scene and leading to some chaotic, you know, heated moment. Now, it is for the most part effective, but I think it's starting to wear thin, you know, because they've been doing it so often.
Exactly. Yeah, it can work really, really well. And I think back to AEW and the very short. This is a bit of a tangent, but I'll keep it short. The very briefly built feud between CM Punk and Eddie Kingston had this kind of, the two of them had to be separated, and they escaped the separation, and sort of, you know, Punk went in for a flying headbutt or something. That was just a one-off on 1 week of Dynamite to build to a match. And it worked really, really well. And that's because it was so sparing and so convincing. Here, it just looks like, oh, right, okay, it's like press this button for the, you know, it's like a video game, you know, we've got the,
I want actually effective security. Like security that just like comes out and it's just like, takes them away in 2 seconds. And like, you don't see any interaction whatsoever, you know?
Yeah.
Security that stops them even while they're in gorilla, so they can't even come out. That would be refreshing. Yeah, no, not happening. Anyway, so your thoughts overall on tonight's show?
It was okay. I think I thought I enjoyed last week's episode better. I think there was, in terms of wrestling, it delivered last week with the Giulia match, and I like there to be at least one completely excellent match on here. I think, in fairness, the Sami win, that was notable, and it was a good match, even though the finish didn't work out brilliantly. I think also in ring, the Giulia and Tiffany match was very bad, and there was some stuff here that just went on too long. I thought all of the Randy stuff towards the end, and I include the Matt Cardona match as well as the Cody interaction. I just, you know, I was looking at the clock and thinking, is this all they're going to do for the next, you know, 15 minutes or so? And it was all they did, you know, so it was, this is one where a 2-hour pacing would have worked very nicely. Thank you very much.
Yeah, this was a show. To me, the big headline of the show is the fact that, like, Kit Wilson, Jelly Roll, and the Bellas outperformed Giulia versus Tiffany Stratton, in my opinion, on the show.
Good takeaway.
So beyond that, I think good continued establishing of like just this heel Randy Orton through Matt Cardona, which again is not the most exciting, you know, end to a 3-hour show, but overall like decently effective in continuing to tell us this version of Randy Orton is different. Sami Zayn winning the U.S. Championship, that whole title picture becomes a lot more interesting as a result of this like unexpected title change. Rhea and Jade, you know, okay, establishment of the baddies, and overall like decent movement, but I agree with you, Neil, not maybe a blowaway edition of the show whatsoever. So those are our thoughts on SmackDown. And again, for more of an extended edition of the show with news of the day, do consider signing up at postwrestlingcafe.com, where we will continue with our feedback. Before we go there, I want to remind everybody also on the Post Wrestling Cafe for all subscribers, the latest edition of MCU Later, talking about Daredevil Born Again. That show is actually available for free if you are a free tier member. That means all you have to do is go to postwrestlingcafe.com, sign up for a free membership. No payment required whatsoever. We just occasionally throw samplers out there, and this is one of those. So freeloaders, according to WH Park, his words, not mine. Do sign up at postwrestlingcafe.com. We also have tomorrow John Pollock's TNA Sacrifice review. That'll be out exclusively for all cafe members. And then also I will be on Collision Course talking about AEW Collision with Kate from Montreal, who I'm sure will have plenty of thoughts on all the other goings on. I believe she's also watching ROH MLP Global Wars, so she'll probably talk a bit about that. Do also check out Pollock and Thurston from this past Friday / Thursday. For the latest. And then otherwise, on the free side of things, kind of a cool, calmer weekend. So all the fun is taking place at the Pro Wrestling Cafe, and let's continue over there for our feedback.